wonder if they can hear me. Good signal. Okay. I sure hope the volume's working on this. If anyone happens to jump on here, I don't know if you can comment on this platform, but we'll do it and see what happens and go from there. Okay, so I've got my 13-inch round, and I'm using Dosanja Matte Flow, but like I said in my original posts, you can use any matte paint for the background work. Deco art is matte, folk art is matte, so just anything matte. And the reason for matte is twofold. One, your marking pencil will show up a lot easier on it. And two, it makes a nice contrast because I personally use a glossy paint to do my dot work on top of the background. You may still go with your deco art if that's all you have to do your top dot work, in which case you won't get that contrast. You can always take some glossy varnish and go through and maybe gloss some of your dots when you're done to get a little contrast, but I just use a brand that's glossy for or you could add some gloss medium to your deco art. That's what you could do. You could add some gloss medium to your deco art for the top dot stuff, but we'll talk about that later. For now, I just want you to use a matte paint, and yes, it's going to be a little harder to wipe up mistakes, but it's not impossible. It's certainly doable with a cotton swab. All right, so I've got a light yellow. I'm going to use some white in the center to give that nice glow that a lot of my mandalas you've been seeing have a nice glow in the center. And so I've got a white matte paint, just any brand, and then this is light yellow, and then I've got a yellow green. This is called Brilliant Green, and then I've got Phthalo Green, which is a really dark green. And that's what I'm going to be using for my colors. And then I've got a 6-inch wide flat paintbrush. This one is by Liquitex, but this is a really expensive brush. You don't need one that costs, if I had to do it again, would not. I put a link in the comments on one of the previous posts leading up to this video. I found one for, I think, I don't know, $10 or something like that, and it should do the trick. But any flat, even if you have some in your garage, you just want a nice wide flat brush. And ultimately, if you're going to be doing a lot of blended backgrounds, and sometimes I'll blend smaller sections. This one I'm going to do the whole thing. That's why I needed a really, really wide one for this, a 6-inch. But a lot of times I will break my board up into sections and blend different sections, in which case you can get away with a narrower brush. But if you're going to be doing a lot of these blended backgrounds, then you're going to want to get an assortment of sizes from 6 inches down. I would say every inch, even 1.5 inches down. One at a time, not all at once. Just slowly add to your collection. I've now got too many. So what you want to do is, I use palette paper, which is just paper that has kind of a shiny surface, but you can use anything flat. If you have a paint palette or even a piece of cardboard, or a paper plate would do the trick. Paper plate would work just fine. And you're going to want to put your paint in order on your palette. So I want white in the very center, and you want a decent amount so that you don't run short. Then I'm going to move to my yellow, and you want your blobs to be as wide as you want your bands of color to be on your board. So I'm going to make that about that wide. You don't want your bands too thin because they'll get lost in the blending. And then I'm going to go to my yellow green, my brilliant green, and my dark green. And you want your brush wet and wiped, so you know it's damp. And you want to have a bowl of, or a tray of water nearby to add as you need. Okay, first, before we do anything, we need to find the center of our circle. So I use this method where I take the ruler and I come down to an even number of centimeters. So I've got 0 on the left and up and down until I get to an even number. So I've got 26 here. Take a pencil and mark halfway. So half of 26 is 13. And then take a second ruler and line it up perfectly on that 13 centimeter mark, straight up and down. Make sure your ruler, your second ruler, is butted up nice against the first one to get it straight up and down, and make a light mark somewhere in the rough center. Then turn your board around. It doesn't matter how much, just turn it around some, and find that 26 centimeter spot again by moving your first ruler up and down. Hope I was on screen for all this. So I've got my 26 spot, mark the 13, take my second ruler, butt it up against the first one, and make a light mark where it intersects with the first mark you made. An X should mark the spot, but we're going to test it with our compass. And so I just take my big compass, I put it at that center point I just made, open it up to the edge of the board, my pencil to the edge, and go around the board and see if that pencil is touching at the same spot. And it's not. You see here, it's on the board. And as I come over here, it's off the board quite a bit. So I need to back that compass up a little bit. And now try it. So now I'm on the edge and I'm off the edge again. So back up a little. Somehow we got our measurements off. Let me open up my compass a little less. And so you just kind of keep doing that until you tweak it until you're in that true center. But that first work will give you your rough center, and sometimes it'll nail it. And I don't know why it sometimes doesn't work perfectly, but I think I'm about there now. I'm close to where I made my, actually I'm right about back on it. Okay, so here's my true center. I'm just slightly over from the original center that I made. So I just kind of grind a hole into my board using my compass. You want to have more than just a pencil mark there because you're getting ready to paint over it. And if you make a good enough hole in your board, then you'll be able to see it even after you've painted over it. Okay. At this point, we're going to take our wide brush. Let me back you up a little bit. We're going to take our wide brush and we're going to If you've done any one-stroke flowers, you know, where you dip the brush in multiple colors at the same time, it's the same concept. But you see how I'm got my brush here. I'm going to dip it in those colors like that and not let the colors get mixed up. And I'm going to go to my board, and I'm going to now keep this over here, but that's how I will continue to dip it into my colors. This brush is not big enough to go from center to edge, so I'm going to back up a little bit, and I will take care of that center at the end. Same thing over here, my dark green. I actually could just put some more dark green. I'm going to widen my dark green blob so that this part of my brush will get the green on it. I could have taken care of it after just with a normal paintbrush, but we'll do it right. Okay, so again, I'm going to the edge of my board. I realize that doesn't take me into the center, but that's okay. We'll deal with that later. A turntable is very helpful here, but you don't have to have one. So I go to the right. You can do it just with your arm motion. And every time you put your paintbrush back down on the board, line up the bands in your brush with the bands on the board, and I go to the left. And make sure you're not going straight like that, but you're going around, okay? And we're gonna keep doing that around the board. We will blend it, don't worry, but right now we're just getting the colors down. So go back to the spot where your paint kind of stopped and pick it back up and do that again. And kind of bring it all the way around. Go back to your paint. Same thing. There's definitely a learning curve to this. It does take practice. I still almost get a little bit of an anxiety attack when I'm doing my backgrounds. I get nervous about it. But the worst thing that can happen is it gets beyond repair and you just let it dry and start again. It's not the end of the world. Alright, so I'm just going back and forth with it. I'm getting my center a little off, so I need to correct for that. So I need to go in a little bit further here. Get my center back where it belongs. So I've got to go in some here. So you kind of just keep working it. And again, a turntable is really, I have found, very helpful. These smaller boards are not quite as difficult to work with. All right, I'm going to try to go back and deal with that center. You see how my center dot is over here and I've got this paint here? I need to come in and get my center back where it belongs. All right, there we go. which puts a little yellow in my white paint, but it's okay because we're blending it. All right, I've got that center issue fixed now. I can go back and get my paint back laying down. So now we're just going and applying paint where we need to. So this section here, and this very edge we will take care of at the end, so don't stress about that. If you start to see that your white is starting to get too much yellow in it, which mine is a little bit now, you see I've got some yellow in my white, I will take a wet wipe and wipe off just that tip. And check my white paint on my palette, make sure it's okay. It might need to add some more white to on top if there's yellow in it. My white on my palette looks all right, but I'm still gonna put some more white down because I'm running a little short. All right, back to my colors. That brightened up my white nice. And so like I said, you're really just working the paint back and forth, but at the same time you don't want to overwork it because your colors will start to come together on your brush just like my white and yellow just did. With too much overworking, the next thing you know, you won't have distinct bands anymore. You'll have muddy. All right, we're getting there. All right, baby. Okay.
So, just so you know.
Okay. And you can see as we've been working this, it's those distinct bands are much more blended now. Okay, and so now I'm just kind of going around and around and around and around. I need to deal with this here. Make sure that you pay attention to where your brush is. Worst thing that can happen is you accidentally put your brush backwards so that your dark is in the center. That is a mess. And don't worry about the mess that's in the middle right now. I'm gonna take care of that. Again, my white is getting yellowed, so I might need to deal with that again. Okay, at this point, I don't know, I think I want to clean off my white again. I'm not real happy with how close that yellow is getting to the center. I'm just using a wet wipe. I'm really scraping that edge of that brush good. Put some more white down. I also am not happy with what's going on here. So what I'm gonna do is back my brush up a little bit. Come out here again. I'm gonna be able to fix that center with just a small brush and some white paint. So I'm coming back. I want this green to cover up this, where this yellow is kind of bulging out a little bit. So I'm gonna line up my brush right where I want it. And at the same time, refresh that white in the center. I'm turning it slow now because I'm paying attention to where my bands are. Hopefully I'm not going too far off screen, but I can't stop and fix it right now. All right, I think this kind of gave me what I wanted. All right, if you start to feel your brush starting to skip and grab, it's time to wet it a little bit. So, and that will also help with your blending. If your blending is not the way that you want it, sometimes a little bit of water, and I mean just barely touch I need a wider container for my water, but just touch the tip in the water, shake it off, back in your paint, and go around the board with it, kind of moisten everything up a little bit. So now I'm just going around and around and around and around. Some more color. I'm gonna do a little bit more of that brilliant green because I'm having a little problem there. It's crossing over on my palette a little bit. This should fix it. I think now we are there. times. Here we go. Okay, so now that is blended the way that I want it to be blended. You see it took a little bit to get there. It is, like I said, a learning curve, but just be patient with it. And as long as your paint is wet and you don't flip your brush over and get the gradient backwards, you'll be able to work it back in. If it starts to feel like it's not working, blending together, wet your brush a little bit, and you know, you'll get better and better at it. At this point, we just need to take care of our edges with the dark green, so I'm just taking a small brush, and I'll also do my edges over here. I won't do that on camera and bore you, but do your edges, and then after the front dries, I'll do my back as well with the dark green. So I'm just taking my dark green and going around that border. You just want to keep your piles of paint on your palette clean. You don't want them blending together at all. If they start to blend together, make a new set of blobs, a new gradient. Start fresh. That will get it muddy. And same thing on your brush. If you move your brush back and forth this way, it will muddy up your colors. And there are many times that, now here I've got it a little bit too far in. I'm just going to real lightly cover up those spots where the board is bleeding through. All right, then, and this is a filbert brush. It's a folk art brush that is really nice for, I've got some more spots here. It's really nice for locking in your, if you break your board into sections, which I'll show you at another time how to do. And remember, if your board is peeking through a tiny little bit, it's not gonna be the end of the world because your work on top is really gonna cover it up, but do try to get the majority of it covered. Okay, and then we're gonna deal with that center. So same brush, nice and clean, because we're gonna be using white here. I'm gonna go to my white and just get a little bit, not a lot. We don't want it globbed up in here. I'm gonna touch up that center, and I'm just gonna kind of spin the board and just blend a little bit. Don't go crazy with this, because next thing you know, you'll have problems. It's not perfect, but it will look good once we put our design on top. All right, so there you go. That's how I do that. And what I was gonna say a second ago is there's many times where I will see that things are starting to fall apart, and I will real fast go to the sink, clean my brush completely off, make a new piles of paint, and kind of regroup. If you're starting to lose control of your colors, getting muddy together or whatever the case may be. But here's the board we're gonna work on, and I will be back after this dries, and we'll go from there. Catch you later. Not sure how to turn this off. Let's see. Nope. I guess it turned it off for me. Nope, it didn't. There we go.